All right, guys, here we are. Another episode of Puckin Around with CodyPucks. Today we have a very special guest. We are going to be talking Vancouver Canucks with Still Will off of Twitter, a well-known ice person. You will find him in the spaces after big wins. Still Will, how we doing, brother?
Doing great, man. Could not be happier to be here right now. Really excited to talk some Canucks right now.
Yep. It will. It'll be good to pass this time. All we got to do is just get to pigskin. That's it. Before we get started, I read something on Twitter today. You had a near experience with a PGA Tour player. Tell us a little bit about that.
Almost played a round of golf with none other than Joel Damon today. Joel posted on his Twitter today, I don't know, like around 10 or 11 this morning. Hey, I'm in Lexington, looking to play around, need good greens. Jumped right on the reply. I'm in, let me know. Instantly DMs me. I dropped my handicap in the chat, and he ghosted me like Patrick Swayze. So
You told him you were a 10, and he needed about a 5, huh?
he's looking for a scratch. Yeah, he was looking for. I'd imagine they're going to be playing the tip somewhere. Him and Gino trying to get it in. So yeah, they're looking to run the table. I'm sure they got somebody today.
That's right. And I mean, you guys are basically boys now. He slid into your DMs.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can talk all the time now. We're trying to find out what the after round festivities were going on today. We were all up in it. So.
All right, let's get into some Vancouver Canucks. So, Vancouver Canucks are one of my favorite teams. I watch them a lot because I find them on the 10:30 slate, and I find Mr. Ice picks them a lot. So I'm very excited to talk about Vancouver today. I guess we'll just get started on last year. What did you expect before the year, and how did it go, and what did you think overall about the season?
So, coming in, I'm a newer Canucks fan. Obviously, I know the last few seasons have been a little bit up and down. Coming into this season, there were not a lot of expectations of us to go almost all the way to the Stanley Cup to make it all the way where we made it. So I think coming in, I was just happy to see us make the playoffs. We brought a couple guys in to make some things happen. We were waiting on some contract extensions towards the end of the year. So really making a good push into the season was great. And to start the year with our guy Brock Besser just coming out and putting on a show on night one against Edmonton, putting up, I think it was 4 goals the first night in Edmonton. Was a hell of a kickoff to the season, and it just kept rolling. I mean, we just kept winning and winning and winning to the point where people were like, how is this happening? So yeah, my expectations coming in were very, very just middle of the road. Take whatever we can get.
Yeah, I agree with you. They were one of my favorite teams. Not this past year, the year before, because they kind of reminded me of Ottawa. They scored a lot of goals. They were fun. They hit a lot of overs, and I watched the team, and they got some good players. And then, like you mentioned, those first. So I think they played Edmonton. Did they play them 2 games in a row? Something, maybe 2 out of 3.
I think it was like the first couple of their season. They played them once to start. They came back around and played them again. I think it was game 3 or 4. It was right at the beginning of the season. Played them like bam, bam, bam. And I think that this season coming up, we'll talk about it in a little bit. They don't play them until almost January this year. So
wow, yeah,
so
and they busted them right out of the gate. And I don't know. Maybe
well, that's when
that
they had Pretty
to...
Boy. They didn't have, Edmonton didn't have the Stork. They didn't have their new coach. They had Pretty Boy out there running the show, touching the glass, trying to get all in with the ladies, and it just didn't work there. It just wasn't flying.
That's right. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about was Vancouver's hot start last year. They came out guns a-blazing, and I have to shout out one of my guys, Elias Pettersson. He is one of my favorite players, but I think that the Canucks season kind of how I think that the Canucks kind of go how Petey goes. So he started out hot, then he got his contract, and then he faded off late. And did it affect the ultimate result of the season? Probably not, maybe. But what was your analysis of just Elias Pettersson this year as a fan?
As a fan, like you said, you couldn't be happier for how he started the season. I mean, he was very much playing towards that contract. It was like, who could we keep on the line with him? There was that back and forth between Mikheyev and Kuzi, and you couldn't figure out, they couldn't find that balance. Then they found the lotto line of Besser and Miller and Pettersson, and that seemed to work really well. I mean, literally called him the lotto line because you never knew what you were going to get. Those guys were going to go crazy. So
lots of power play goals.
That Tocchet reeled that in towards the middle and in towards the end of the season as well. Once they got rid of Kuzi before Christmas. So I think with getting rid of Kuzmenko and bringing in Lindholm wasn't as a smooth transition as they thought it was going to be for Pettersson. And I think they thought that was going to energize Petey into the end of the season, and with some of the injuries that we found out towards the end of the season that he had anyway, it kind of led to understand kind of why his play was the way it was, at least down the stretch. But like I said, I can't be happier to have a guy like Pettersson on the roster, because he's just when he gets going, he's very hard to contain, very, very hard to contain.
Yeah, and you mentioned guys like Kuzmenko out, Lindholm in. You guys added Zadorov middle of the season. Those guys aren't here anymore for this upcoming season. So as we look at, I guess first of all, what is your opinion on Kuzmenko? Because I think he's a stud.
I'm a Kuzi guy. I think I was one of the very vocal people about Kuzmenko. I didn't really like. I was very vocal early on that I don't think they should have got rid of him, and then they get rid of him, and it really just didn't. Like I said, it didn't pan out as quickly as they thought. Now, listen, I'm not giving anything away to Lindholm. He literally won the game that I was in Nashville for, which we will get to in a little bit for Game 4 of the playoffs of the second round. I mean, I can't be mad at Lindholm. Obviously, he's also got shipped off to Boston with Zadorov as well. So, I mean, good luck to them. Obviously, they were role players in what we needed, and Tocchet at the time felt like Kuzmenko was slipping a little bit. He did let a few things go. Kind of felt like he was scapegoated a little bit in that, before he was let go, he was getting healthy scratched. Tocchet just didn't feel like the conditioning was there. I think there were a lot of things at play as far as I think Kuzmenko really felt like he was the guy. And right, I mean, listen, he played really well. He scored a lot of goals. But when Tocchet brought in that new system, I mean, you could see it. I mean, he just wasn't scoring the amount of goals he had scored in the past few seasons. He gets to Calgary and starts lighting it up automatically, starts putting up goals automatically. Obviously, didn't make them a playoff team like they wanted. But yeah,
those Russians, they're built different.
Huge Kuzmenko guy, man. I think I always will be. I think I'll always respect, he's just such a character.
Yeah. So, talk a little bit about the additions you guys made this offseason. So you guys added Jake DeBrusk from Boston. Heinen, he's from Boston, isn't he?
He is. So we basically gave 3 players. They gave us 3 players. We gave them 2. It was almost like a trade. I was talking to Herbie about it, our buddy, our Boston buddy. And that's really what it was. It was just a sign and trade for a lot of these guys. I'll tell you the guy that nobody's really talking about and that I'm very excited about. I think people will get a little bit nervous about his age, but I thought Kiefer Sherwood was a really big pickup for us from Nashville. If you watched our series with them, he had our number on hits. He was a very, very, if you remember, we weren't getting a lot of shots off in that series. Most of the games Vancouver was winning, they were only shooting the puck like 20 times. I think it had a lot to do with Nashville's defense, and we're going to see a lot of that this year since they've added basically the all-star team
They're loaded.
of what they've added. But I'm really excited about Kiefer Sherwood. I'm really excited about Jake DeBrusk, of course. DeBrusk is a Canadian kid coming home. He's excited.
Playoff stud.
Yeah, excited about being there. So that's a huge plus, So I think those two guys plus Heinen, and then also this is going to rub people the wrong way, but I'm a Vincent Descharnay guy. I thought he was, I know a lot of people weren't super impressed with him at Edmonton. I think he's gonna be a great addition to this team. Listen, we don't need him to play night after night, but to give guys like Dakota Joshua, playoff D, Tyler Myers, give those guys a night off, a break. Descharnay is going to be that guy that can step in and be that guy that Noah Juleson kind of was this year, which Noah Juleson wasn't jumping off the page, but he got what he needed to do done. He's just a big brick shithouse. So,
all right. Yep.
I think as far as additions, I think we also picked up Nate Smith, Jerry Patera, new goalie. We did sign Shelovs. So, some huge additions. We let the Smith walk, which was the best decision we could have made in the offseason. So I feel really good, man. I think we really, for losing Zadorov, I really wanted to keep Zadorov. If there was one person that we could have kept, I really wanted to keep Zaddy. But I get it, man. He hunted the money, he hunted the years, and he got it. So.
Yep. And so maybe you can just comment on my thoughts on these players from a gambling perspective going into next season. So you got guys like Brock Besser, goal scorer, right? Do you agree?
Super goal scorer. Coming off the injury, which he is much better. I have heard he is completely cleared. He had the blood clot stuff going on in the playoffs. So good news.
Brock Besser famously, I gave Mama Pucks a play for Mother's Day, and she picked. So who did she pick the first game? She picked Barkov for Florida, hit the goal scorer, and then she picked Brock Besser late, and Besser, we thought he had a hattie, but he ended up with 2 goals. They took one away, but that's
I think
one
Lindholm
of my favorite memories about Brock Besser.
Lindy got one of them, but dude, he finished with 40 goals last year. How could you be disappointed with that? 40 goals.
Yep. I look at a player like Besser to score a goal against the lesser teams in the league. You don't get a lot of value there with him. They usually have his point total only at 0.5. It's like minus 190 usually. I'm cool on that. JT Miller, they'll have his at 1.5 every once in a while. JT Miller had what seemed to be a quiet 103 points last year. You have to be in love with some JT Miller, huh?
He went on a tear at the end of the season. We can't deny it. The fire they got lit under him in the playoffs. He's another guy that saved us in that Nashville series. His play in that Nashville series, and let's not sugarcoat anything here, okay? He gave McDavid one hell of a run in that Edmonton series. He was on McDavid the entire series. That was his assignment. I feel like he did a really good job, obviously, till the end of the series when we were just absolutely riddled with injuries. What are you going to do going up against Edmonton when your best goalie is out, your best goal scorer is out? You have to just buckle down and just roll the dice. JT gave everything he had. And to speak of JT, I think DeBrusk and JT are going to meet in the middle here, because I think you're talking about one and the same when you talk about guys that left a team coming off a good season. When he left the Rangers, there was talk that, JT's too old. He's going to, he's going to start going down, and he's literally done the opposite. So, JT is a humongous fan favorite in Vancouver. His wife is huge outside of the rink with her foundation work, constantly posting incredibly cute pictures of their daughter close to the ice. So, I mean, JT Miller is a guy that I think will long be remembered. Obviously, as one of the hard nosed players in the NHL, but I think we might have found a forever home. Hopefully, knock on wood, for JT in Vancouver. So.
I hope so for your guys' case. Everybody knows what I feel about Elias Pettersson. That's my boy Petey. I expect him to have a bounce back year. The interesting thing about Petey, just real quick before I move on, is that people don't understand that. So 2 years ago, he had 102 points, big time breakout year. The year before that, he had his highest point total season, only 68. So that was very surprising when I looked that up, and just watching him the year after put 102, and people were shredding him at the end of last year. I mean, he had 89 points last year. So, I mean, a little bit under his standard, probably under the value of his contract, but I look to him. Trust me, he's going to come back strong. I like me some PD. Moving further along down the lineup, Dakota Joshua, you love him and Connor Garland. I think
Playoff D, man.
A lot of
Playoff
value
D.
there as far as points go, huh?
Playoff D. Quinn, first game of the playoffs when he came out and just went nuts in that first series. I think he won the game for us, the first game and the third game in his play. Yeah, I mean, just super happy with where we are with him. He's a guy that I think probably should have gotten a little bit more money when it comes to what he's making, but I think he's very happy and content with where he's at. So, listen, if you've got guys like that, and I think you mentioned it, we might have mentioned it earlier. I know you said Garland. When you talk about the first part of the season, you can't forget the third and fourth line of this team that literally were scoring at will there for a while. Garland, Bluger, guys like Hronek were having incredible seasons coming on the third and fourth lines. Pia Suter is another guy who emerged just and ended up playing towards the second and first lines towards the end of the season with Pettersson. So I think the brilliance in how we manifested last season was our play past the second and third lines, because we were incredible. We were just incredible on those lines.
Yeah, and before we get into the defense, tell me a little bit about this Niels Hoglander guy. I don't really know much about him, but I read that people think that he's going to be pretty good, huh?
So what's funny about Niels is now it's a weird juxtaposition now where he fits in this roster, because Niels is this very small guy. He's a very tiny guy. And a lot of the drawback that, fans and a lot of the jokes that get said a lot is just how tiny he is, how small he is. Feisty guy, very fast on skates. I think he's another guy that came off the third and fourth lines and was making a huge noise, head play towards the beginning of the season. We didn't really hear much from him in the playoffs. I mean, here and there. I can't say not much, but he was a very quiet offseason from what I thought we were going to see from him. But again, he's a young guy. This is somebody that's getting his feet wet in the playoffs. So I think, more ice time for him, the better. But I also worry a little bit about where he's going to fit on this team now, because, I guess, you could put him with Garland on the third line now, the second. Because, I mean, our first and second lines are pretty much set. I mean, you really look at what we've brought in versus what we're going to be bringing back. Really slotting Mikheyev out of there actually kind of hurt Hoglander a little bit. So Mikheyev obviously got shipped off to Chicago.
Mikheyev still on the team?
No, he got traded to Chicago with Lafferty. And I think Sam Lafferty actually got sent somewhere else. So that was really early on. I think
Mikheyev's good, by the way.
I'm not a fan, man. And that's okay. You know what I mean? That's okay. But I think I just don't think Vancouver was the right situation for him.
Inconsistency, maybe.
Yeah, I just don't think it was the right play.
Yeah. I don't think we need to talk much about Quinn Hughes, brother Jack. He won that award this year, didn't he? That defensive whatever.
What is it? Is it? I don't want to mess. Is it Nolan? Shit.
Oh, I don't know the names.
Smallest guy to ever win it.
I'm
do
not
know
sure
that.
of the name, but defensive player. Yeah, Quinn Hughes is he when he has the puck on his stick, you can just tell the boy is nice. And tell me what you think about Hronik, but when I saw him play 2 years ago in Detroit, I thought he was really good, and he started off last year very hot, kind of faded late, but I mean, he had like 20 points in what seemed to be the first 10, 15 games.
I'm going to call Hronik what he is. He's a vibes guy, dude. He's a straight up vibes guy. He, when you look at defensemen and when you look at what this team is able to bring on the ice, he saved us on so many occasions, whether it be, stopping goals, blocking pucks. And yeah, he had a really breakout first part of the season. Excuse me. But I think the back half of that season of this year, he was a big defensive force for us. Obviously, like I said, in Nashville, he was humongous for us in Nashville. And to get back to Quinn Hughes, I wish we could put video in so that you could see when he put Gustav on skates in Game 4 in Nashville to get the puck to Brock Besser to score that goal to go to OT in Nashville in Game 4, which we were lucky enough to be in the room for.
Talk a little bit about that feeling, because you were at that game. That was the turning point of the series. Let us know what you actually felt deep in your soul.
I'm going to start from the beginning, okay? Because coming in, it was I'm 1,000% on board. We're going to win this game. Shelovs was coming in. Everybody was unsure about how this was going to go. He was coming off Game 3 where they kind of got dominated. So the question coming in was, do we believe in Shelovs? And I'm going to tell you, every single person that I came in contact with in Nashville, which is an incredible barn, by the way, Bridgestone, next year that place is going to be bananas with the crew that they have. I'm going to try to get down for a game. I don't think Vancouver plays them until February, so another late in the season. And so I think we might try to get down there for that. Just an amazing place, dude. Tons of Vancouver people there. We get down to the third period, and I mean it's 3-1 with 2 minutes to go. I mean, I'm looking at the exits with the wife and the kid. I'm like, I don't want to leave, but it's like, do I want to sit here and watch them celebrate? 3-1. We pull the goalie. We get the quick 3-2. I'm like, okay, we got a shot. Like, we got a chance. Like, we're definitely not leaving now. So we get down to, I mean, it is to the 20 seconds when Quinn puts this guy on skates and sends Nyquist down, or the Gus Bus down the ice, jukes him out of his shoes, passes it to Besser, who shoves it in at the end. And if you go back and you watch that goal, you can hear Besser just screaming like a fucking little girl. It's hilarious.
Hopefully I can figure out how to add that clip in here.
If you can't, I mean,
special.
it's very easy to find. It was one of the craziest goals of the playoffs. I mean, he dumped it in at the very last. I think there was 6 seconds left in this game. I went live for the OT. We came out, scored with 2 minutes into the game of OT. I was sitting completely covered around Nashville people. Like, the guy beside me was incredible the whole time. He's a really great guy. He wasn't a complete jerk about us winning, because I wasn't like, hey, fuck you guys. It wasn't anything like that, but I was not holding back the celebration at all on the live. And if you go on my Twitter, you can find it. I'll repost it whenever we post this video so that people can see it. it was amazing. I mean, it happened so fast. My wife looks at me. She's like, "That's it. That's it." I mean, it was like so fast that it happened. And again, Garland kicks it back to Lindholm. We get the goal. One of the most exhilarating
Quick work in
things.
OT.
Yeah, and then afterwards, this whole clan of fans like merged towards the top of where we were. We were like kind of in the lower bowl. We were about 10 or 11 rows up from the ice. Um, Incredible, kind of like just off, kind of where we were for IceCon, kind of just off to the left. Um, so incredible seats. Probably the cold. I mean, it was April. Um, Probably the coldest I've been in an arena, and I was like in sweatshirt, everything. Um, but I just remember that. I don't know why I remember that being so vivid. It was just such a clear. It was a really warm day outside, but it was extremely cold, obviously with the ice. But merging everybody up the steps, there was like this probably 50 to 90 people of Vancouver fans that just spread out into the arena and went out to the front, and we all just started chanting. They had this like Vancouver car out in front of Bridgestone. People started jumping on the car. Like it was ruckus, dude. People started getting upset. Obviously the Nashville fans weren't liking it too much that all the Vancouver fans were like right at the front kiosk just screaming "Go Canucks" at the top of our lungs. It was a sight to be seen, dude. I mean, like, anytime you can go into a barn and win a game like that in that type of fashion, and shut the crowd. I mean, coming into that game, I know Nashville kind of felt like they had us because of the defense and being able to shut us down in the way that we were only getting like 17 to 25 shots off per game. So I was extremely nervous. We had seen them early in the year, which we actually did cash a Mr. Ice play back in January when we played Columbus. So 1-0 with the Iceman when I'm in the building. So I'm always going to rep that. Which was an incredible game, by the way. I think it ended up being 4-3. It was the first time I'd taken my son to a game, and he gets to see OT and a shootout. Unfortunately, we get the loss. But again, we made up for it going to Nashville,
Get the
taking him to
loss. Get
Nashville.
the
So
over.
he's 1-1
It's
in lifetime games, and so yeah, dude. I
that's
got to see. I was in the house for 3 really big games this year for NHL, so I can't be happier.
it's moments like that why we watch the game, and that's what we chase. That's what we chase
Oh,
is that moment right
man.
there. And that's funny because I remember in that game. So listen to this, and this will kind of lead me into the gambling aspect of Vancouver overall. But I had Luke Evangelista over 2.5 shots on goal. It was 2.5 or 1.5, whatever. But he got, I think it was 2.5 because he got his second like midway through the third, but they were up 3-1 and he wasn't out there. But then Vancouver scores those 2 goals, and I'm going nuts. I'm going nuts because Evangelista, we got a chance in OT, and it ended quickly, unfortunately. But we can't win them all. We just try to win most.
That's it.
And yeah, that's it. Real quick before I kind of just give a synopsis about how we're going to attack this Canucks team this year, at least to start the year. I agree with you about Descharnay. A lot of people kind of
Sneaky.
kicked him to the curb at the beginning in Edmonton. But that's the type of defender I think you need in the playoffs. Just a big body who just get in front of the puck, just stop it, and be in the right spots at all times. I think he's going to help you guys a lot. So, yeah. So JT Miller, I like over 1.5 points this year. Him and Petey, I'll probably dabble in them a little bit. Further down the lineup, I like a Connor Garland, but I feel like his stats don't necessarily mirror his impact on the ice. So I'm kind of hesitant on him. And then you can give me Philip Hronik any day of the week, pretty much over 0.5
Mm-hmm.
points. You can find him, minus 130 some nights. You can find him plus 110 some nights. So he's one of my favorite guys for Vancouver. Excited to watch this team in this coming year. Before we talk about what you think is going to be the result of next season, talk a little bit about the goalie, Thatcher Demko.
Man, what can you say? What can you not say about Demko? I really, I think we played him a little bit too much last year. I think we found out. There were a lot of times where we probably could have ran to Smith out there. He played a lot of games. I mean, if you look at his wins, obviously he had the most wins among goalies, I think, last year. I think I may be spitballing that, but I think he was one of the top winners as far as goalies. And it was a testament to how much he played. And of course, when we needed him the most is when he got hurt. And, we tried to roll to Smith out there. It didn't work. We found gold in Shelov's and his wonderful flowered shirt. So I think when you look at Demko, I can't be any more excited than I am because he's had the rest that he needs. This summer, he's going to have the chance and opportunity to get his body where it needs to be, and I think it's only going to get better for Thatcher Demko. And how could you not be excited when a guy like that is at the helm of a team like this going into a season where they could very well do exactly what they did last year?
Yep, he had 51 games, 35 wins.
Yeah,
pretty good stuff there. I mean, a 2.45 goals allowed. He's up there. He's up there. A team that is going to have a chance at the end of the year to win the Stanley Cup. You need a top 10 goalie or a goalie that just catches fire, and I think you guys have that in Thatcher Demko as long as he stays healthy.
Right, and it's the touchiest area to play.
That's right. So I guess we will finish with where are the Canucks going to end up end of next year. I know it's only July right now, but what are your feels right now, and what's the ceiling for this team?
I think we didn't really get a lot of time to talk about him, but I'll do it now. I think Tocchet's going to have this team ready to go exactly where they did this year. I think the leadership speaks volumes as to where, when he came in, obviously wasn't very well liked. Everybody loved our last coach a lot, and his name is blanking from me. I should know it, and it's just my name is just blanking. But when they bring in Tocchet, there was a little bit of a lull, like, hey, who is this drill sergeant? He gets the team where it needs to go, and you constantly heard that a lot when you were hearing about the whole Kuzi situation, where he wasn't up to speed with how Tocchet wanted things, or how the game wanted to be played. It was a very specific type of hockey that Tocchet wanted to play. Coming from Stanley Cup championship teams, coming from Pittsburgh. Tocchet's a very hard-nosed guy, and coming right off the TV screen. He'd come right from TNT. So I think there was a lot of that coming in where there was a little bit of uncertainty with our crew about what was going to happen. So I think when it comes to Tocchet, and I think we lost Cody, but he's going to come back. I'm going to keep this going. So when you look at next year, I think Rick Tocchet is going to have this crew ready to go. I really feel like as a team, I think we can get right back to where we were. I think a playoff run is most certainly in talks if we can come out and play as well as we did. going in, but it's going to have a lot to do with the third and fourth lines coming in, stepping up, making those plays like they did this year, and really just kind of feeling it out and just knowing like our playoff run this year was not a fluke. So I think looking at this season, I don't really see how we don't end up in the playoffs. Obviously, that's me talking as a huge fan. But I think there's excitement. For once in Vancouver, I think this season really brought a lot of expectations as far as like what could be. So I think when it comes to where we're going to end up, I think you can expect us right back in the playoffs. Now, are we going to have the same roadblocks that we did this year? Obviously, Edmonton's going to look a lot different. There's a lot of teams that are going to look a lot different. I fully believed had we had Demko or Besser, I think we would have maybe challenged a little bit better in the playoffs. But no, I think overall, dude, and before you cut out, I was really talking about just the expectations about what this team going forward and understanding that now that we can see how well we've played, why not go out and do it again?
What are you going to do now? Yep.
So I think this team is ready. I think this team is only going to get better. Coming off a season where two of our guys were nominated for two of the biggest awards of the year. One of them won it, and the other just barely missed. So I think overall, I have to give this season a B plus as far as happiness. I couldn't have been happier to finish the way that we did, have as many fun games as we had, and the battle that it took to get us to where we were at.
So what do you think is Western Conference Finals?
I think you can most certainly, as a fan, yeah. I mean, most certainly put us right back there.
No
we're going to have
jinx.
to. It's going to go no jinx. It's going to have to go right back through Nashville. I mean, let's not let's not beat around the bush. They're going to be insanely good. So
and that's one of my favorite things about hockey is that before the season, everybody has these expectations, and they think that things are going to happen a certain way, and it rarely happens that way, and nothing else matters than besides what happens in late April, May, and June. And
yeah,
that's why I love the sport, and it's why it's the best playoffs in the sport. So,
well, dude, this has been fun, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. This has been awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah,
this makes me even more excited.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the goal of these little talks. Again, thank you for coming on. I love me some Vancouver Canucks. Good luck this season, and I'll see you on the flip side. Talk to you soon, brother.
All right, go Canucks, go.